Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'm admitting people. I have two computers, obviously.
Oh. barayuguruye kandi bose bamaze gushikamo nakuba nihari bayuguruye iyi link baguhaye iyi
Everyone, please wait a few minutes while we get the link out to everyone. Okay, Eric, I put
a few might have missed it, ma'am. A few might have missed it.
I have put it in the AJAP International.
Hello, Jessica. We are here in the second class.
Yes, and I have put the link in the AJAP International WhatsApp thing.
Thank you very much. And I can send you
Better to have a WhatsApp group, ma'am. If you have a WhatsApp group, we can share all this. Maybe after this.
A WhatsApp group is not manageable for me with 100 people in it.
A communication would be easy, better, ma'am. That's it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Varghese. Or Varghese.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, please mute yourself. Okay, since I would like to get started, I will continue to admit people, but at this point, Larry Lal, can you please give advice for people and how to help their people move to the mentality of empowerment?
Yeah, I think I have an interesting perspective on that. I think first,
I keep muting these people, but they keep unmuting themselves. Go ahead, Larry. Did I mute you, Larry? I think I muted you.
That's okay, not a problem. I think it's very important for leaders, first of all, to be able to establish a foundational framework that they operate within that supports the outcomes that they're looking for, and then be able to provide the people who are working with them with the tools and the resources and education and training and coaching that's necessary to bring out the best in those people. The important thing is to be able to provide the opportunities to build the trust and the confidence in those people, so those people can build that trust and confidence in themselves. It also means being able to train and to coach not only the younger generation of all the things that are required, but we need to go more towards question-based learning and critical thinking in order to have people who are being empowered by the new and additional responsibilities they're developing and need to execute, so that that trust continually and that confidence continually develops and grows. So to me, it's about the strong communication that happens amongst the teams and the groups. And it also is about making sure that the direction is very well known and the responsibilities are very well articulated and managed going forward. So the relationship between the leader and the people that they're leading is very important. It's a two-way street of mutual trust and confidence and open communication. However, if there isn't the tools and the resources and those things available, the trust and the confidence seems to deteriorate very quickly. So that's just my perspective. I hope that helps, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
Thank you, Larry. Jean-Marie, are you able to translate for us?
Je n'étais pas en fait préparé, mais quand même je peux essayer. En fait, Monsieur Larry Lach, il vient de nous parler du leadership, comment en fait on peut arriver à un bon leadership. Il dit que en fait il s'agit de construire en fait la confiance et le respect mutuel, donc ce qu'il appelle trust and confidence. C'est aussi je ne sais pas comment traduire ça en français, mais quand même le coaching aussi existe en français, je pense. Sûrement l'éducation de la génération de la, comment dirais-je, des jeunes. Et puis, il faut aussi focaliser aussi sur le critical thinking, c'est-à-dire qu'il faut donc focaliser sur, comment dirais-je, le critical thinking. Ça, c'est les... Ah, comment dirais-je? Je n'étais pas préparé.
Là, c'est l'idée de penser avec l'idée de critiquer.
Oui,
les
oui, c'est
pensées.
ça, c'est ça. Oui.
Si quelqu'un dit quelque chose qui est quelque chose de stupide, alors vous savez que ça soit stupide.
Oui, c'est ça. Il faut aussi avoir cette communication, la communication, disons, entre deux, ce qui dit two-way communication. La communication doit être dans les deux sens. Et puis, la direction doit être connue. Il faut avoir vraiment une vision bien connue et claire pour tout le monde. Et il faut aussi avoir, disons, le trust, c'est ça, c'est la confiance. C'est la confiance entre les leaders et la communauté. Donc, c'est grosso modo, je dirais, c'est ça. Mais la fois prochaine, je vais essayer quand même de prêter trop attention. Merci. Je n'étais pas bien préparé, je m'excuse.
So for not being prepared, he did a pretty good job.
Là, bien sûr. Bon, je suis préparé, mais je ne suis pas préparé à traduire.
Jean-Marie, je peux vous aider, je suis là, je suis de retour.
Ah, bien sûr, tu es là, d'accord, Zena.
On va travailler comme une équipe, like a team, as a teamwork.
Oui. Yeah,
Okay.
teamwork. Yeah,
C'est
merci.
bon. And go ahead, Your Majesty. You're muted.
Did you mute me? That's okay. You can do that. I'm hearing myself. No problem. We're okay. Equal opportunity. She's an equal opportunist. She mutes everybody, even you. I wanted to, Larry said something that I agree with Larry about the things he said, but I wanted to add that not only do we need to encourage and promote good tools to bring up young ones to be leaders, we need to train the adults as well. We need to have them to learn how with their children, to bring them up to become leaders. Because when we come to the school or forum like this, they'll go back home. It's not encouraged. Then we have failed. Here in Hawaii, I have my kupunas, my elders, and I teach them. I work with them to work with their children, to work with the grandchildren, and it's going very, very well. And they're learning how to become self-sustainable people. They're learning how to grow kalo so they know they can eat, how to fish, how to hunt, how to farm. They're learning the culture, the indigenous culture, the tradition, and they're happy. They're learning how to respect their elders. That is far gone in most countries where the elders are not respected. Why? Because the elders have not been respectful to the young. How can the young respect the older people when the older people don't respect the young people? So education is not just for the young. I understand Adrian, and he's not here because this is what I was going to tell him. It's also for the adults. You need to train the adults to become more aware and to see a problem before it happens, solve the problem, continue to grow and evolve. Do you agree, Larry?
You know, Your Majesty, I couldn't agree with you more. I think what you just touched on about being aware is so important. And I would like to add two other components to that: consciousness and mindfulness. Without those being taught at every level in our society about the awareness and the mindfulness of not only yourself, but of others, about where the past has come from, where you are today, and what the future is going to hold, to be able to be emotionally regulated, to be so aware. These are the critical foundational skills I think we need to be teaching globally if we are going to change the current paradigms that are happening today. So when you talk about empowerment, it's empowerment of people to realize they have control of themselves. They just have not executed it, but we have not taught it so that they can do it. So there's a two-way street here. As leaders, we need to empower them by teaching them the skill sets that they need, not only the children, but the adults as well, because the kids are looking at the adults for the direction for the future. So we need to teach across all of those adults, kids, grandparents, parents, the whole gambit, so that this becomes part of how we develop and grow our communities. Otherwise, I think we are in really dire straits.
We are now in dire straits.
We are. I agree with you.
I have worked with my kupunas around the Hawaiian Islands, in Tahiti, Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, New Zealand, Australia. I've worked with many, encouraging them to teach the parents, the adults, work with the youth, because the adults, when they don't know anything, they suppress their children. They suppress the child because when a child asks a question, the adult doesn't know it, they feel stupid. They feel that it goes out the window. And all the stuff you learn here, and then the child becomes frustrated, and then it turns to other avenues. Parents need to be trained in order for all of this to succeed. All this nice things here need to be honest. I like to talk honestly, to talk frankly about things, not flowery stuff. That's not my job. My job is to do my duty. And my duty is to teach and to bring about and to encourage. And you're right. You need the four elements. You need spirituality. You need to have your emotional attached. You need to have your physical. All this needs to be intact. And you have if I have one arrow, I can break it. But if I have 3 or 4 more and I try to break it, it'd be hard to break it. Why? Because my foundation is established. No matter what someone else teaches me, I can say, no, you're wrong. I can debate it and show them, no, I'm sorry, you are wrong. Adults don't know the answer. They suppress their children. They suppress them. And they say, no, go away. I'll go talk to somebody else. It doesn't work. We are in danger today. This new politics and stuff. I talk to politicians every day and they drive me crazy. However, Larry, I hope I made my point. You have to involve the adults as well as the children, teach adults so that they can come up and work together. And therefore you have a strong bond and a respect.
I could not agree with you more, Your Majesty. I absolutely 100% agree. I mean, just can tell you, we are having this similar discussion in a clubhouse room that we're part of. And this is some of the things we've been discussing about how we change the global leadership paradigm so that we can move not just peoples forward, but the entire human race forward. Because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about here does not exist, or it has gone by the wayside over the last number of years. I don't know how many, but in many places it's not happening again. And I agree with you 100%. It has to be across the board. It has to be from the grandparents to the parents to the kids, and then that has to be passed on to the next generation and the next and the next. Because
it's working here, Larry.
And I think if that's the case, then I think there's a great model that we can be using to run out globally, that this is what is actually working. This is why it's working. let's start training and
Let me tell you, I have 4,000 kupunas, 4,000 elders. Let me tell you their ages. Their ages are from, excuse me 1 second.
Yep.
Popular today, shucks. The ages is from 60 to 98. 60 years old to 98 years old. And each of my kupunas, one teaches how to grow kalo. The other teaches how to haul out a log to make a canoe. The other teaches how to make a pili hale, how to build homes.
Yeah.
And they donate their time. They have the grandchildren there and everybody else. The other teaches how to cook food in a natural environment. The other one teaches sacred geometry. If you've never heard about sacred geometry, it's a fascinating experience to learn about sacred geometry. So I empower my kupunas, my everyday teachers. That's what you do. You bring your kupunas because all the elderly people there, they have worth, they have life, they can teach, they have love, they've been through a lot of experiences. Use them, bring them into your arena, guide them, don't dismiss them, bring them in. And when you do that, I promise you, your whole world will change. And the children then will say, now I have my role models. And it's working. I have 4,000 of these kupunas. And the children they love school. We have a child who doesn't do math very well. I'd be honest, when I was a child, I hated math. That was the worst subject I ever had. I hated that stuff with a passion. That sucked. I didn't like it. This child liked it. What happened? One of the kupunas, he said, what do you like to do? He said, I like to work with my hands. You like to carve? Well, I don't know, but so he gave him a chisel. He gave him a log. Today, that child is one of the most beautiful carvers because what that kupuna did was say, I'm going to take you, and what was he doing? He was teaching math. He was teaching depth, width. He was teaching that child how to do math. And pretty soon that child said, I love math. That's the greatest thing I ever learned. Because he built his canoe. He learned to use math to build it so it's symmetric, that it'll float. That's how you encourage. That's what you teach. You teach the young. That's what's missing in our educational system. You cannot teach the child because this is part of the curriculum of that school. It won't work because every child learns different ways. You want to encourage and you want to love them. You want to protect them. You want to guide them because they are the future. Eric, you understand?
I would just want to make one final comment, and that is, for all of the folks who are, on the call today, think of how this can be applied. Just these simple concepts that, His Majesty and myself and that we're talking about, how it could be applied back in your communities to enable and empower the people in your communities. So this is not something that isn't working. His Majesty just showed you and told you how it's working in his community. It's a model that's working. Use it because it does work. So I would just implore you to give it a try. Use the information that you're learning here. Try it in your own communities and then let us know what's happening. If you don't give it a try and you don't take the step, you'll never know what the potential outcomes are going to be. So I'm just going to say that's all I've got to say for now. And Your Majesty, thank you so much. I totally agree with what you said. Totally.
Thank you. Adrian, you're back. Did I answer your question on the last Zoom that we had?
Adrian, can you hear us? I'll text him and ask him. And while we're waiting for that, it looks like he's having internet issues. I will get to Techno Canon X question in a minute, but I wanted to move to Eric Nsengiama, the Pan-African president of AJAP, we would like your ideas on personal leadership for community self-reliance. and Zina or Jean-Marie can translate.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Je remercie d'abord tout le monde à partir de la Rouen qui a pris son temps pour venir nous enseigner et partager l'expérience concernant le leadership personnel. Zena,
Zina or Jean-Marie. Merci.
Ok, je vais traduire simultanément. Donc, Eric is saying that he would like to thank everybody who came just to give their experience or this training about the education and about leadership. Can you continue?
Dans notre organisation, nous sommes très engagés, surtout en rapport avec l'éducation, l'engagement des jeunes dans la citoyenneté pour préparer l'avenir de nos pays respectifs.
In our community, we are much more focused on engagement of young people in leadership.
Zena.
Peut-être.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Je traduis mal, donc tu me dis parce que.
Oui, tu traduis mal. Zena, you are there. You are
Je
here.
m'excuse, bon, je suis pas Ouais, bon, je m'excuse.
Non, ça marche. C'est le contenu. Oui, oui, je suis.
Vous pouvez me traduire. En résumé, ce que je dis.
Alors, ce que je vais traduire en utilisant, using the I subject. AJAP, we are dedicated to focus on the youth, and our engagement to the youth, we focus mostly on youth leadership.
And development.
Wonderful.
OK. Il faut tirer attention quand je parle parce que je vois que je ne sais pas si c'est le problème de communication ou le problème de l'Internet. Sinon, si moi je peux terminer, vous allez continuer, vous allez me traduire après. Comme je vous disais, nous, dans la représentation internationale de AJAP, qui est la coordination des activités au niveau international, surtout à ma qualité de président représentant international, nous faisons l'engagement des jeunes, la préparation des jeunes, l'éducation, parce que si nous sommes convaincus que si on n'enseigne pas les gens, on ne peut pas obtenir au développement ou bien à l'objectif engagé. Nous, au niveau de notre organisation, nous faisons la leadership. C'est pourquoi vous voyez, nous sommes ensemble en première ligne de gestion avec tous les représentants ici dans notre plateforme. Et vous voyez que ce sont des jeunes qui sont très engagés, qui veulent changer le monde. Et surtout, à ce qui concerne l'engagement personnel de notre nation. Parce qu'on travaille comme un domaine, il n'y a pas quelqu'un en préparant les autres qui seront nous remplacer.
Est-ce que quelqu'un peut traduire, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, dans notre AJAP, on comprend que l'éducation doit être... Oh, I'm sorry, I'll do the English. For AJAP, we understand that education has to go hand in hand in order for us to reach to development and leadership. We focus mostly on youth, but we're also aware that we have to think about the future leaders who will be able to replace us. AJAP is trying to change the mentality so people can be self-sufficient. So we focus mostly on youth, but mostly we are aware that if people are not educated, there's no way to reach to empowerment and development, therefore leadership for youth.
Nous remercions beaucoup l'initiative de cette organisation Successworld1 qui a pris l'engagement d'enseigner gratuitement au niveau mondial Et nous voyons que nous sommes aujourd'hui de la même façon d'engager les jeunes, d'engager la population dans le leadership personnel parce que ça va les préparer d'être des bons leaders dans l'avenir. Surtout que nous avons toutes les forces, nous avons tous les moyens d'être dirigeants et aussi de changer le monde.
We thank you very much, this organization, for agreeing to train us and without any charge. We see that we are very, very similar to the way you focus on youth. And we as young people, we have the power, we have energy, and we are the ones who can change and prepare our future. So we are very thankful for this organization.
Nous remercions aussi le loi qui a pris son temps pour engager les jeunes et aussi quand nous sommes avec nos aînés, nous voyons que là où nous allons, il y a un bon emploi. Et nous, au niveau de la jeunesse, nous voyons quand nous sommes avec le roi, nous nous sentons à l'aise et il nous engage, il nous donne de l'espoir et nous voyons que là où nous allons, nous remercions le loi qui a pris le devant pour engager les jeunes parce que ce n'est pas tout le monde, et tous les présidents, tous les lois, tous les hautes autorités qui peuvent accepter de passer avec les jeunes pendant ce temps.
We thank you very much, His Majesty, for accepting to be with us today, and especially for your leadership and your model of putting ahead in the forefront youth, and also to have them together with old elderly people, because it's not every leader in our world who can focus on youth. And we feel very, very comfortable. We are very happy to be with His Majesty. And we thank you very much for this time. And we are very, very grateful more than ever. We feel very hopeful with you.
À ce qui nous concerne, nous allons soutenir l'initiative et de travailler en commun accord en tant que les jeunes engagés depuis 2007 et de créer cette framework d'expression et aussi de préparer l'avenir du monde, surtout via l'éducation, l'engagement personnel et dans les autres domaines que nous enseignons.
As far as we are concerned, we are going to continue working in this framework that we studied since 2017. This framework of freedom of expression to put forefront education, leadership, and development of the youth.
Okay, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
So to Your Majesty, do you have a response?
No, can you believe that? Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be here. But I encourage each and every one of you to be the best leader you can possibly be for yourself and your community. Start with your home, with your wives and your husbands, your children. Start with them, and build from there. But leadership is a beautiful thing. It will empower you, but never abuse your power. Never abuse leadership role. Be humble, be sincere, and know yourself. But no, I don't have much to say.
J'ai pas beaucoup à vous dire. Sa Majesté dit, je vous encourage à commencer par votre foyer, commencer par là où vous êtes dans votre communauté. N'abusez pas le pouvoir, soyez humble et surtout, travaillez pour votre peuple. Je n'ai pas beaucoup à vous dire, mais j'aimerais vous encourager parce que le leadership, ça commence par vous.
Okay, thank you. And now Adrian Duan has a question.
Yes, Your Majesty, I just wanted to extend what I was saying before, in that the education that you mentioned about your elders, and the passing down of that educational system that you inferred was the true success to your entire nation's progress, was exactly the same as that the new trend that is circling the globe and utilize from the elder to the younger in a physical sense rather than in a paper type education. So if you agree with what I'm saying.
Your Majesty.
I would like to, thank you. In part, yes, I agree in part. Let me explain. With our kupunas, elders, they're teaching the youth to rethink things. They're teaching the youth to speak their language. They're going back to the indigenous heritage, their language, because colonization has stolen people's culture, their tradition, everything. So here in Hawaii, Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, the South Pacific Rim, Australia, New Zealand, those places, they are now following the mandate I've set forth. And it's thousands and thousands and thousands around the South Pacific Rim, and doing very, very well. So kupunas, everything is hands-on. The textbook is hands-on. And that's what the children like. They like hands-on experiences. Why do you think that they go to the iPad and iPhone? Because they're using their hands. They're going to get information. But imagine if you give them, other than that, a chisel and everything to carve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what we're doing here. And that is how education starts. You must train and retrain the elders. You must bring your community of elders together and see which one, and you decide, you work with them, who will be an influential teacher. And not all elders can teach. You have to find those that are willing to teach because they have the love to teach and to work with the youth, and you will be successful.
Zena, can we translate, please?
Oui, alors, Sa Majesté, il explique le modèle qu'ils utilisent dans le Pacifique, c'est le renforcement entre les jeunes, les enfants et aussi les ancêtres. Les enfants aiment bricoler, ils aiment faire des choses, par exemple travailler avec les iPods ou les machines, les électroniques. Alors, pour leur enseigner, il faut leur donner des choses à faire. Parce que pour l'éducation, ce n'est pas seulement leur enseigner, mais c'est surtout leur donner l'occasion de pratiquer ce qu'ils ont appris, mais surtout trouver quelqu'un qui aime enseigner et qui peut leur montrer ce qu'ils peuvent faire dans la communauté. Alors vous pouvez commencer par ce qui marche pour vos communautés, mais surtout, il faut comprendre que c'est les deux, les ancêtres et les jeunes. Chez nous, par exemple, la colonisation a enlevé beaucoup de racines. Alors, on a dû enseigner d'abord la langue, la culture et tout ce que les jeunes peuvent oublier. Alors, c'est nos ancêtres qui ont le dictionnaire et les jeunes vont apprendre. Donc, alors, commencez par mettre les deux générations ensemble, les vieillards et les jeunes.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to move to Techno-Kamen X, who has been waiting this entire time to ask a question. Techno-Kamen X, please unmute yourself and ask a question. And next is Jean-Marie. Jean-Marie waited the entire first hour to ask his question and still hasn't asked his question. So it looks like Techno-Kamen X is having difficulty with the internet. So we will move to Jean-Marie for his question. Jean-Marie, unmute yourself, please.
you very much, Jessica. My question actually was a little bit answered, but I just wanted to comment what His Majesty was saying about leadership and about education. I was just trying to understand what is education, which kind of education really do we need? Are we talking about this formal education, or are we talking about informal education? Because those both two of type of education, they are a little bit different, and they both are very, very important. So we learn from home, but we also learn from school. How do we come up with this formal education whereby our children, they are taught everything in school, but not really about leadership, about how they can change the community? Because I'm talking from this perspective because I'm living in Europe, whereby so my children are going in the same school with German. So, but there is a little bit difference of culture. This culture is quite different, and how can I cope with this problem? And I think also this is the same like people living in Africa, because they are really facing a lot of problem. How can we because poverty is also something which is really a big challenge to overcome in order to have a good leadership, because you can have a great project, you can have really, you can have good leadership skills, but somehow you will lack this kind of, empower, let's say, these tools like financial tools, like, this education background, which is very, very important. How can you comment about this type of education, both informal and formal one, and this kind of lack of funding? Thank you.
I see Larry there wants to, hi, Larry.
I think the first thing we need to understand is the change in the mindset we need, looking at what education is. And education is a continuous flow of information, whether it be in a school, whether it be on a playground, whether it be on a cricket field or a soccer field or a baseball diamond, or wherever it may be, with your grandparents, with your uncles, with your aunts, it's all education. Now, we have a formal thing we call school, but when we get out of school, we also go play with our friends, which is in itself an education in social graces and social interaction. We need to be able to change that perspective and change that mindset of what we think it's either formal or informal. But what we need to do is to form those very, very strong foundational frameworks for ourselves and for our children, as His Majesty was just saying, so that we can bring up a next generation that is aligned with who we are and the people we are. And it doesn't negate anybody else being who they are. It just means that we are strong and we believe in who we are. So unless we start teaching those foundational frameworks to our children and to our children's children, and we learn them ourselves to be able to teach them, that formal distinction between what you call formal and informal education will always be a roadblock. So that's just my perspective. I don't know if His Majesty agrees or disagrees with me, but I'm sure I'm about to hear.
I like to comment. Thank you, Larry and John. Thank you for your question. This is what I did, and let me give you an experience and arguing what I did. For an example, to give you an idea, is that I sent the letter to the kupunas through the children, through like a Hawaiian immersion school. I told the teachers to send a letter with the children to go to their parents, and I wanted to talk with all of them. So we did. We set up time, and the parents came. I had over 7,000 that came, 7,000 it started with, and it mushroomed even more than that. And there I addressed the education system. And I said, in this school, they're teaching this and this and this subject matter based on indigenous knowing. So I want you to encourage your children to continue to study. I want to support the program, support the fact that our goal is to make them self-sustainable, to learn how to fend for themselves as they grow older and to be leaders in the community and abroad. That was so well received because what I did was incorporate all the parents, the grandparents. They said bring grandparents there. And we had over 7,000. That was the first time. The second time I hosted that, we had almost double that. And that is how I perpetuated it to move forward. And it's moving and continue to move. And the kids, when they're learning subject matter, the parents are engaging. They say, hey, what do you learn? Let's learn Hawaiian. You're learning language. They're talking language back with the parents. Parents are, and they're having fun. They're having fun. So what I've done was to teach the parents to respect the school system, the knowledge that they're doing, the higher education. I'm teaching the higher education people to come back to the basics of education. You must learn to crawl, then walk, and then run. That is the philosophy here. John, did I answer your question?
Yes. But there is another, the second part of the question was about, so I know that even the young people in Africa, that they have really very good ideas, very great, really a change in their mind. They want to be really good leaders of the future, even of today. But how can we cope with this lack of, because it's like in entrepreneurship. If you have a good idea, but you don't have funds, how to, to implement your project. So how can you a little bit tell us what can you advise?
I like that question. First of all, you don't need funds to move the education process. You don't need funds. That's a lie. That's a lie that people tell themselves because they think you need funds to get this, this, and that. That is not true. What you need is courage. You have a purpose, and you have a happen. When you have that, Jean, you will move mountains because you work in faith. And pretty soon, believe it or not, you will see things happen. You will see the parents, they're bringing potluck, they're bringing food, they're bringing money. It's a beautiful thing. So you're talking to a king, but you're also talking to an indigenous man. Indigenous men that love my culture, love everything about it. And that's where you find peace within yourself because you know who you are. But money is just a tool. But in the absence of money, you have creativity. It can use all that you have there and make it work. You will develop scientists there on nothing. You'll develop people to think economically how to create things. And pretty soon your brain starts moving in such massive ways that, my goodness, you're creating something beautiful, a utopia. You understand, John?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I hope I answered your question because in order for me to fully answer that question, you need to be in Hawaii to see the model working and take it back with you. Because to talk about it, I can only give you my enthusiasm to express it. But like in anything, when you're there, you see the model, my goodness, it's working. Then you see how the village is working together with very little. Case in point, I go to Kapolei and other places. I have my team go and we gather the homeless people, talk to them, and I come over there. They say the king is going to come. I come and talk to them. I hug them. I kiss them. I say aloha. And these are great people. And I tell them, listen, I need some leaders around here in the park. The park is dirty. I want you guys to create a team, pick up the trash, clean it up, and do all these wonderful things. They have the cleanest park in Hawaii now because you encourage them to do things. You're creating leaders, people to get involved. And they have no money. But Larry, you had something to say?
I don't know what I would add on that one. I mean, it's absolutely imperative that it's hands-on, that you're actually doing it, that people get involved. And that's what leadership is all about. It's about social influence, right? If you go back to the primary definition of what leadership is, it's about social influence to achieve some goal. And if it's the goal to make your people better off than they were before, whatever you do to make that happen and how you influence your people is to your people's benefit and to your benefit as a leader as well, because it comes back to you being able to empower them and then they empowering themselves, which means the next time they'll take the initiative to do something without being even directed to do it because they understand it's in the greater good of the community. That is what is so powerful about being a leader, when you can have that leader empower other people to become the next leaders, to help go into the fields and help the people, to bring new people to new jobs, and then empower others. This is not just a one-time thing. It's something we need to be able to pass on, not only from generation to generation, but from people to people, right? It's your peer group as well. It's the kids as well. It's, you know, you pass on the information and that feeling of community that builds that empowerment. So that's just my thoughts, Your Majesty. That's, I don't know.
Okay. Can I add some thoughts here?
Yes.
Okay, before I do, and I'll say that Techno-Cammon has been able to come back into the class, but after we get a translation and after I add a few ideas, then we'll get to your question. So I know that we can't really have a full translation, but can we have a summary of a translation from either Zina or Jean-Marie, please?
I will summarize. So His Majesty was responding to Jean-Marie's question regarding the lack of funding and the difference between formal education and informal
in
education.
French. We need you in French.
Sorry. My apologies.
I've done it before.
Alors, Sa Majesté a répondu à la question de Jean-Marie concernant l'éducation formelle ou l'éducation informelle, mais aussi le manque des fonds, parce que la jeunesse africaine surtout, ils ont beaucoup d'idées, ils ont beaucoup de projets, mais il leur manque des fonds, de l'argent pour mettre en ces projets. Alors, Sa Majesté a répondu que non, on n'a pas besoin d'argent pour implémenter ces idées, mais c'est surtout le courage, c'est surtout la motivation, c'est surtout la créativité qu'il nous faut pour réaliser tous ces projets. Il a aussi répondu que l'éducation, c'est continuel, c'est une forme d'information qui continue, que ce soit à l'école, que ce soit dans la communauté, que ce soit aussi au parc. Et Larry a aussi continué en état d'accord avec Sa Majesté que le système éducatif, il est complémentaire du système qu'on a à la maison. C'est-à-dire, on est éduqué chez soi, mais aussi dans le système scolaire. Et Sa Majesté a donné un exemple, par exemple à Hawaï, vous pouvez aller voir concrètement, il a envoyé des lettres à travers les enfants, ils ont envoyé à la famille, et il a eu presque 7000 personnes qui sont venues entre les vieillards et les jeunes. Et la deuxième fois qu'il a fait ça, le chiffre a doublé. Donc, c'est pour montrer qu'il faut incorporer les deux générations, que ce soit les vieux, mais que ce soit aussi les jeunes. Mais surtout, il a insisté, ce n'est pas l'argent qui fait des projets. L'argent, c'est comme un outil pour implémenter les projets de leadership. Voilà.
Okay, thank you. And I want to add something here about education and creativity and creative problem solving. I have this picture in my background for a reason. And it's a brain game, but it's very practical. A farmer has 6 pens, 6 animal things of equal size. And one night, a farmer takes a piece of fencing. I'm sorry, a thief. A thief steals a piece of fencing. And the question is, what does the farmer do? How does he build 6 more animal enclosures of the same size with less resources? And while you're thinking about the answer to that question, I want to go back to, I was talking earlier about Jimmy Ngango in the Congo. He has 0 resources, none. And he empowered his community to become self-reliant. They picked vegetables, they dropped seeds in the ground where they could, they were selling fruits sustainably, feeding their own families, not at gouging prices. But if we, and this goes to a leadership theory in a general sense, if you focus on what you don't have, you are disempowered. If you spend all of, and we've been trained, a lot of us have been trained to keep our hands at the bay of the despot of the moment. Give me money, give me money. Like, but that's completely disempowering. The whole point of this program is to return your focus to your community, and your people can do things. And when you do whatever you can, you are far more powerful than when you focus on some despot who just is a jerk and who's not going to give you anything. So, and I'll tell you, when I first started working with Jimmy, he said every week, give me money, give me money. Every week he said, give me money. I said, I don't have any money to give you. It took months of training him to turn around and stop asking for money and do what he can with what he has. And I want to give a big shout out right now to one of Eric Nsengiama's greatest, great people, Ahmed Abba Umar. I think his internet has had an issue, but when I met him, he was one of my first interviewees because he went out and just did stuff. He had no resources. And he said, my children need masks. And I went to this place and I only had, less than, $1.50 to buy masks. And I convinced them to give me as many masks as they could for the orphans. And he got the masks. He had no car. He had no gas. He had no transportation. He went to the schools and he handed out masks. And then he does the same thing all over again with food. He's a leader of his community, and God bless Eric for finding him, because there are no resources, and Ahmed Abba Umar is doing things in his community and he is empowering his youth. So all of that being said, does anybody have a solution to the puzzle behind me? I gave this solution, I gave this puzzle out to many people because we all have the ability to solve problems creatively, and we are all naturally curious. And some people in some countries have been drained of their natural creative problem solving. So part of this program is to realign not only you, but your constituents to their innate ability to solve problems in their community. So I have the solution. Does anybody want to try to give me the solution before I give it to you? Okay, so this is how the farmer solved his problem with less resources. Still has 6 pens, still has, they're all the same size, and he uses creative problem solving. Now, I promise to get to the question of Technocam X, but I am 100% sure that King Paki Silva Jr. would like to debate my statements.
Actually, no, not today. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you for the puzzle there, but my mind went 1,000 ways to solve that problem very quickly. But that's how my mind works. Problem. One thing, you can make one pen. You can use what the materials you have. You can create just one pen for each of the pigs. You can create. There's so many things that my mind goes into that can create all the things necessary and what have you. Then I look at the hogs and I say, well, let's see, which one is edible? Which one's good for eating? Think about self-sustainable as well. Well, that hog will go feed a family. So that's great. Now we can pick away a few of them. But the point is, there's many ways to a solution. Keep the male and female, keep perpetuating, whatever it is. I would think like a farmer. Anyway.
Thank you, Your Majesty. And I know that Zena has to leave soon and Jean-Marie has to leave soon. Okay, I understand, Your Majesty. I won't mute you anymore. But Zena, can you translate quickly, and then I'm going to get to Techno-Camon's question.
Oui, bien sûr. Alors, je vais résumer la présentation de Jessica. C'est que ce programme, c'est pour résoudre des problèmes. Il faut focaliser comme sur ce que vous avez dans la communauté et non pas ce que vous n'avez pas. Parce que si vous vous concentrez sur l'argent que vous n'avez pas, les ressources que vous n'avez pas, vous perdez l'autonomisation de votre communauté. Alors, elle a donné un exemple de Jimmy qui, sans argent, il a pu aider sa communauté à vendre les fruits. Et il a aussi donné un exemple de Ahmed. Elle a donné un exemple d'Ahmed Mayaba qui n'avait pas de ressources, mais il a pu trouver une solution pour faire des masques. Et les masques qu'il a pu distribuer à la communauté, aux orphelins, sans ressources. Alors, l'essentiel, ce n'est pas de se concentrer sur ce que vous n'avez pas, parce que sur les mains, ce que vous n'avez pas, comme le puzzle qu'il nous a montré, c'est surtout trouver des solutions. Parce que les solutions, ce n'est pas seulement l'argent, mais c'est surtout que votre communauté est stable mentalement. La communauté a une capacité physique, une capacité mentale, mais surtout une capacité de travailler ensemble. Alors, focalisez sur ce que vous pouvez faire et non pas ce que vous ne pouvez pas.
Merci, Zena. And after Zena's question, I would like Eric Nsengiama, the Pan-African president, to respond to my ideas. So I'll give you a minute to collect your thoughts, Eric, and go ahead, Techno-Camon X. Let's hope you haven't lost internet.
No, I'm back. I'm here now. Initially I didn't have a question, but after His Majesty spoke, I started hearing his ideas that I'm very interested in when he talks about, active learning, or hands-on learning. Yeah. We've in Malawi, where I'm from, we've tried to do different approaches towards learning, because basically I on my own with AJAP, we've noticed that, the normal education system is not working. It's not fair for everybody. So one of the challenges that I really would like to ask His Majesty on how he managed to do it was how to get the parents involved, because there is, that culture here, or that mindset here that, we need to benefit something. I mean, the education alone is beneficial for you. That's something that people don't get. But now the parents of the youth that we've basically approached are usually asking their children, why are you doing that? Why are you going there? They don't give you anything. And yet they forget that the education their children are getting is very beneficial. So I would request His Majesty to just help share a few ideas on how, you know, you get the parents involved in this education process, so that, you know, we grow. Because I do believe, yes, with the support of parents, like in Malawi, we will have more influence, more youths taking the right stand in different activities or different areas of life. So yes, that's my question. That how do we get the parents involved? If there's any suggestion at all.
Thank you. What is your name? Your name's not technically.
My name is Rosaline. Rosaline.
Thank you. The can we okay, good. What I've done is that I first searched for the oldest kupuna there that the community respect. And let's say there's a family person who is difficult and don't want to be part of anything. I would send the oldest kupuna there. I would say, hey, go talk to individuals, tell them what we're doing, because they're respected. I look for a parent. Like I said, a parent is not very cooperative. Then I find the person that this parent respects. In my case, I would go to the oldest kupuna there in that community and put that person in charge and say, we'll talk to the people, this is what we're doing, and encourage them. And say, because when you have an older person, they're not going to listen to the younger person very well. They're going to rebut that. Well, who are you to teach me? I'm older than you. They don't have that same balance there. But you get an older person who, and then this person says, well, he's my kupuna, he's older than me. I'm going to listen to him. And therefore you have that line, and pretty soon there's comes down, then you have a balance. So that is how I solved that problem, by finding a persons that parent has respect for. And in doing so, I brought that parents up to become more proactive in the education of their children. And then we instill culture. We instill the Hawaiian language, whatever language that is indicative of your country. We instill the ability to grow our food, to be self-sustainable, the old ways. And the kids love it, the parents love it. And pretty soon you have a community that are working together. But you find the person that older person is going to respect. Keep it in mind, one more time, they're not going to listen to the young one too much, but they'll listen to someone who's older than them. And you bring down, you have a balance. You have the older, I call the medium range, and the younger, and they come together and boom, then you have harmony. Rosalind, do you understand?
Yes, I understand you. I understand you perfectly.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Someone can translate.
Oui, Zina, vous êtes encore ici?
Oui, je suis là et je prenais note. Alors, la question de Roselyne à Sa Majesté, c'était de savoir comment impliquer les parents dans l'éducation de leurs enfants. Surtout chez elle, en Malawi, le système éducatif n'était pas très, très fameux. Alors, elle voulait savoir comment est-ce qu'on peut intéresser les parents à être dans l'éducation de leurs enfants. Sa Majesté a répondu qu'il faut trouver d'abord une personne très respectée de la communauté. C'est surtout le plus vieux ou le vieillard de la communauté. C'est quelqu'un qui parle et tout le monde écoute. Parce que dans nos communautés, on a tendance à écouter les plus vieux, mais quand les plus jeunes parlent, on leur dit, mais toi, tu es jeune, tu n'as rien à m'apprendre, tu es trop jeune. Alors, c'est toujours mieux de trouver quelqu'un qui a l'autorité, mais surtout, c'est le plus âgé du groupe. Et là, quand il va venir, il va parler à la communauté, tout le monde va écouter. Et Sa Majesté a continué que les parents, ils vont être impliqués parce qu'ils trouvent le bénéfice ils trouvent que l'éducation de leurs enfants, ça les implique, ça les regarde. Donc, ce n'est pas à quelqu'un d'autre de le faire, mais c'est surtout eux avec leurs enfants. Donc, c'est le travail d'équipe, d'ensemble.
Thank you, Dina. Eric, so, at this point, we're going to start to wind down, and I'd like to hear from Eric Nsengiama now, please. Eric, vous pouvez parler ou non?
Oui.
Avez-vous des idées ici?
Oui.
Allô?
Allez, tu peux atteindre votre micro?
C'est à vous de dire ce que vous voulez sur le conseil de leadership.
Ok.
Ok.
Et bonsoir à tous.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Ok, je réponds au nom de M. Charlequin. Je suis le représentant.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
Je n'ai pas compris. Oui, je disais que je suis Charlequin, je m'appelle Charlequin, je suis le représentant national de l'AJAP RDC. J'ai suivi vraiment avec attention sur toutes les propositions et l'intervention de tout un chacun. Et en tant que leader aussi de mon pays, il y a beaucoup de propositions qui ont été soutenues, souhaitées, proposées par d'autres intervenants. Et je peux aussi dire dans ce sens ici, pour dire quoi? Pour dire que c'est vrai, savoir s'imposer dans une société, il faut appliquer les techniques d'approche. Ce sont ces techniques qui pourront te faire accepter auprès d'une communauté quelconque, si je peux dire. C'est vrai, les soubassements de tous, on peut dire, c'est d'abord des idées et de l'encouragement et surtout du dévouement dans ce que nous voulons faire. Moi, je peux donner un exemple, par exemple. Présentement, où je suis en train de parler avec vous, je suis à l'est de la RDC, précisément en Ituri. Pendant les atrocités qui se sont déroulées, par exemple, il y a eu des fuites des parents, des petits-enfants qui ont fui leur village. Ils se sont retrouvés maintenant dans les chefs-lieux, la ville de Bunia. Et comment on a su pour pouvoir intervenir et les faire voir? Parce qu'il y avait déjà, malgré que notre armée commençait à récupérer des villes là, petit à petit, mais étaient restés dans leur pensée pour ne plus retourner là où ils étaient. On était obligés de les approcher, de les faire voir l'importance de pouvoir être chez soi. Au lieu de déambuler, par exemple, dans la ville, de commencer à demander par-ci, par-là des choses à manger, ça sera mieux que vous puissiez retourner d'abord dans votre village, comme déjà la paix d'un côté a essayé un peu de regagner, en fait. Et ce genre de choses se sont déroulées avec beaucoup de monde. Et vous savez, la majorité de nos jeunes ici, africains, si je peux dire, ont cette culture-là pour pouvoir développer une pensée ou un projet. Ils mettent premièrement l'argent devant. Et depuis que moi, je me suis promené, j'ai été même au niveau de Burundi là-bas, vraiment, c'est paix. Souvent, la majorité travaille avec les moyens de bord et puis conçoivent leurs idées, continuent. C'est jusqu'à ce que là où ils se limitent, et c'est là où ils commencent maintenant à chercher soit de l'aide ou des financements. Donc, ce que moi je peux te dire, vous avez vraiment presque tout dit, si je peux dire dans ce sens-là. Premièrement, nous devons avoir du courage. Premièrement, j'ai ajouté avoir les techniques d'approche. Savoir amener un discours convaincant, séduisant, capable d'emporter la communauté qui se retrouve devant vous, en fait. Donc, voilà ce que j'allais juste ajouter par rapport à ce que j'ai entendu.
Can we have a translation, please?
Yes, I will summarize. Charles Lequin
Oui.
From RDC, Republic Democratic of Congo. I followed every single intervention. Today's conference was great. And I just want to make a comment because you touched everything. You said it all, that we should put first ideas. Can you hear me?
Monsieur Demba, ne faut pas déranger. Maggie, Monsieur Demba. Monsieur Demba.
Oui, allô, bonsoir.
Le micro.
Il n'y a pas de problème.
I continue. He gave an example. Mr. Charles Lequin gave an example during the atrocities in the west of Congo. There were many kids that fled the village and they went to different places. They didn't want to go back home, but they approached them and convinced them and told them the benefits of going home rather than staying in the street and being homeless and asking for food and asking for money. Even though the army was also trying, they were successful to approach them and told them it would be best to go home. So the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes we as young people, especially in Africa, we put money first. And we think that when we have projects to implement, we want to ask for money first. But it should be the opposite. It should be putting forward the ideas, the creativity, and then looking for funding after. Writing letters for sponsorship and funding should come as a second. So I'm not gonna talk that much because everything has been covered in this intervention. I just want to encourage everybody to have this community approach, convince others, and work in collaboration with others, and we'll be able to get where we need to be.
I'm muted because there's a lawn people in my yard, but I want to thank, how do I say his name, Zina?
Charles, like Charles, and then Quin, Charles Quin.
Charles Quin. Oh, j'aime bien ce nom. I want to thank Charles Quin, because he's dead on. We have to do things, whatever we can do with what we have. And if we demonstrate a great relationship, if we demonstrate responsibility and leadership, if we influence our community to do the right thing, we empower our people, then maybe somebody will have confidence in us. But we have to take the money out of the conversation, and we have to center on our own leadership. So you couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Charles Quin. And I know that Princess Vigenti Maka has a question, but I would like to go to Eric first for his thoughts on this. And we're going to wound down by 3:30 my time. So in 12 minutes, we're going to try to finish. We're going to go to Eric Nsengiama and to Princess Vigenti Maka's question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I have one question. What is most of the day there is the confusion between a reader and a manager. Can you tell us the difference between the two terms?
That's a very good topic, and I think it's a topic for an entire day. I think, but I will defer to, if King Paki Silva or Larry want to answer that question, I'll defer to them. The difference between a leader and a manager.
One and the same. A leader is the same, because the manager is in that position because the leader feels that he or she can do the job. One and the same.
Do you, Your Majesty, do you, so does that mean that you, so I read about stuff like a manager is the one who's like a supervisor, making sure that somebody follows through and checks up on somebody, and it's like as a task.
I can go into great detail of what I mean, but I'm simply saying from boiling it down, you're right. A manager manages the operation, everyday operation, but he or she also finds the talent to fill that place if they have to replace someone. So they have to find people that will continue to perpetuate the mandate of that company or whatever you're striving for. They're still leaders, no matter what. They're still leading, still doing the job that they were mandated to do. So if someone gets let go, they have to find someone to fill that slot. So they're going to find someone with the education and knowledge and wherewithal and the leadership to take that role, that directive, and move forward. Leaders and managers, if you want to go the more detailed aspect, a leader is someone like Larry or Jessica, people that have a way of having people to speak, to talk about ideas and their thoughts. So they're good at setting the parameters, the foundation, to lead people into a discussion. That's part of leadership. But basically, a manager is still a leader, and they need to be respected as such, because I have my ministers. I have my minister of finance, my minister of education. So what are these people? They're managing the things that I want done, but also are leaders because they're encouraging other minister of education, secretary of education, to come together to the table to discuss further education or economics. In my view, it's still one of the same.
Okay, thank you. And Dina, can we have a translation? And then we'll go to Princess Nsengiama.
I must leave. Everyone, thank you so much. I gotta go. I'm being called here.
Okay, thank you for being here. You've blessed us with your presence. Mahalo.
Hello, everybody. God bless you.
Aloha, Your Majesty.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Alors, la réponse de Sa Majesté, le manager, il est aussi leader. Donc, pour lui, c'est la même chose, parce qu'un manager, il est en position de superviser les opérations, il peut remplacer quelqu'un des postes et tout ça, et il encourage les autres à travailler vers le leadership. Alors, pour lui, ce n'est pas seulement l'appellation manager, mais c'est un leader. Donc, manager, ça équivaut pour lui à leader en même temps.
Thank you, Zina. Okay, so Princess Nsengiama, let's move to you real quick. You're muted. I've clicked the button. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, in the near future, we would like to see children educated, because every child has the right, every youth has the right for free education. Because in the near future, we don't want to see offenders, criminals, and thieves walking around, because if children are not put onto the right track and being onto the track of education, we will definitely see this in the near future, which is very frightening when we look around us and see that children and people are not educated, and then they end up onto the wrong side. So we as leaders, if we're going to sit back, believe me, we're going to see this in the future, and we would not want to see this in the future. So if we put our foot front to support them, be there for them and encourage them towards education, I'm sure we can make a difference globally. And you all will agree with me, because if you see someone that's not educated, they need to make a living. Which other way are they going to turn to? Because poverty hits them so bad that they cannot even buy that loaf of bread. The only way they're going to see is either break-in, stealing, murder, crime. And we don't want this throughout globally. So I'm sure you all will agree what I have to say.
Okay, yes. Can we have a quick translation, please?
Yes, you may. La princesse a prononcé, je cite, tous les enfants devaient être éduqués parce que sinon ils vont devenir des criminels, ils vont devenir des voleurs, ils vont devenir des gens sans futur. Alors, nous, comme leaders, nous devons nous concentrer sur la jeunesse, les enfants, parce que s'ils ne sont pas éduqués, c'est la pauvreté qui va dominer. Et après ça, c'est le vol, c'est des crimes. Et je pense que vous tous, vous êtes d'accord avec moi qu'on ne veut pas ça comme un problème au niveau global. Alors, c'est mieux que nos jeunesses, nos enfants soient éduqués. Merci.
All right, thank you. And it is on my agenda to do a free teacher education class. I don't have the bandwidth right now, but within 6 months, I will be starting a free teacher education class. And I think the point right now, though, is to say that as much as I am an educator, and I want to think that if you go blah, 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 somebody's actually listening, and then somebody can actually learn. It's not really true. I mean, students learn by making mistakes, and they take that natural curiosity, they do things, they make mistakes, and they learn. And so my point is to build off of the other comments earlier, is that everyday activities are learning moments, and we can harness those. And I hear so many complaints. The parents say it's the educator's fault or the school system's fault. And then in the US, the school system says it's the parents' fault. I don't care whose fault it is. If it's your kid, do something to educate them. And I have a really funny story. It's brief, but it's to the point here. My son was 1, and he had his little toys next to me in the kitchen. I was cooking dinner, and he had his safe little kitchen toys. He was making his own 1-year-old dinner, whatever he was doing. And I said, don't touch hot. And his eyes were like, what does that mean? I could tell he knew it was really important, because I said, don't touch hot. And then I went back to cooking, and I was paying attention to him, and I was getting stuff out of the fridge, and I'm putting everything together, and he was still staring at me. And I said, don't touch hot. And he was even more curious. And so finally I turned around once, and he, quick as a link, he took his little finger and he touched the stove and screamed and jumped back. And he had a boo-boo on his finger, and he never touched the stove again. And I'm the parent. I was not a popular mom, because other moms were saying, I don't want my child to get hurt. And I said, I do. I want my child to hurt this much, because that's what teaches them a lesson. And the same thing happened with the staircase when they were 1, going up and down the stairs. And my children each fell down 2 steps. They got hurt, they cried, and they never fell down the step again. And they never fell down an entire flight of steps, because falling down that one step will teach somebody an entirely new respect for the entire staircase. I use that story as a metaphor, because when a child physically encounters something, that's how they learn it. Teachers, paper, books, put it all aside. It's what you do every day. And I'm going to get to your question in a second, Charles Coin, but I wanted to say also that I had a mission statement for my children, and I empower each of you out there to tell the parents in your community that it is their job, to raise physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy children who become productive, well-adjusted adults. That's your job if you have children. I wrote a mission statement and I made actions on that statement every day. I thank you, Techno Kamen, for your, and I know people are running out of time. I said we'll go to 3:30, but I will take this. I'm gonna, if Zena, if you can translate this one last time, and then we'll go on to Charles Coin's question.
I will summarize, Jessica.
Yes.
In the interest of time. So,
yes.
Alors, je vais commencer par le début, la fin. Elle a donné une mission aux parents. Allez dans vos communautés et dites aux parents que c'est leur devoir d'éduquer leurs enfants, surtout physiquement, mentalement et émotionnellement. Donc, les enfants doivent avoir les trois aspects pour qu'ils puissent être des futurs leaders. Elle a donné un exemple de son fils qui voulait toucher la cuisinière et parce qu'il a touché, il a senti que c'était chaud, il s'est brûlé et il a compris que c'est pas bien de toucher le feu. Mais aussi, quand les enfants descendent les escaliers, ils tombent, ils se font mal, les enfants apprennent en pratiquant. Donc, c'est learn the hard way, c'est-à-dire il faut apprendre les choses non seulement dans les livres, non seulement à l'école, parce que l'école va dire que c'est le travail des parents, et les parents vont dire que c'est le travail de l'école. Donc, les deux vont se blâmer réciproquement, mais c'est surtout le travail des parents.
Thank you. Okay, so this will be the last question from Charles Coin. Go ahead.
Ok. Oui. Merci beaucoup pour la parole. Je voulais juste, parce que j'ai toujours eu du mal dans les concepts des mots, en fait. J'ai entendu, l'un des intervenants nous a dit que leadership égale aussi au manager. Vraiment, de mon côté, j'ai toujours vu ça un peu différent. Pourquoi? Parce que moi, j'ai toujours considéré un leader comme quelqu'un qui crée premièrement un chemin, donc quelqu'un qui mène un groupe, n'est-ce pas, ou une équipe vers un objectif qui est déterminé, qui est précis. Donc, moi, j'ai toujours eu un peu des réticences pour vraiment définir ou bien faire en sorte mettre ensemble le leadership et le management, en fait. Donc, voilà, en fait, ma préoccupation que j'avais à dire.
Okay, one more translation, and then you're done.
My confusion or my worry is about the terms that were being used, the leadership and manager, because I always understood that a manager or a leader, a leader is somebody who creates almost like a path to lead a group toward an objective. Whereas the manager, almost like a boss, is in the management, but the two terms are always, to me, are different. So I'm still puzzled by the fact that they put these two together, saying that leadership equals manager.
I'll take that, and I'm going to ask Clarice to hold her question until the next class. We need to wrap up here.
Okay.
So I'm happy to do a session on managing versus leading. The King's point was that if you're a manager, you still have to be a leader. He didn't necessarily want to get into the details of supervision, but I can use parenting as an example, that the manager is the one who says, I need to see your homework. Did you do it? Show me that essay. The manager is the one supervising the activities and making sure that people follow through. And they are also responsible for hiring people and firing people often. And so you really have to be a leader to make that decision about who you're going to hire and who you're going to fire. But so I'd like to take more time on a different day to go into those concepts in depth. And so I thank you for your question. I think I can say this in French. And I typed it in the message, actually. I typed that, what did I write? The manager is the one who qui supervise. C'est le directeur, la directrice, elle ou il supervise les activités du jour. C'est quelqu'un qui est responsable pour rassurer que celui qui doit faire quelque chose, qu'il actuellement fait-le, sans excuse. Mon mari, il a un business et tout le monde, ses employés disent, oh, je suis malade aujourd'hui, je ne peux pas venir au travail. Ils se plaignent toujours et il dit, vous venez au travail maintenant ou vous perdez votre job. I went a little bit over, Larry, in French. I said, my husband owns a business and he hears excuses all day long. Oh, I'm tired, I'm sick, I can't come to work today. And my husband says, come to work or lose your job. You know, I mean, he's also very understanding if somebody's really sick, and he's very supportive of his employees as a leader. But I'm using the case of excuses for today. So I am going to, I want to thank everyone for being here. And I think this is a very valuable exercise. The videos will be up on Successworld1, and this video will be up on my YouTube channel. I do not participate in group chats in WhatsApp because I am public. I have over 150 calls a day. People call me at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 4 a.m., and I shut everything down. So I will not be doing group chats in a general sense. And certainly the King of Hawaii will not participate in a group chat. Some of you have not actually hit confirm subscription in Global Mobility. I encourage you to confirm your subscription in order to get emails. And so next week we have our territory. I'm going to give the last words to Eric Nsengiama, the Pan-African president of AJAP. And I'd like to thank you personally for bringing your crew here today. They are an instrumental part moving forward. So merci à Eric pour amener vos chefs de pays. Votre organisation est très importante pour le futur de nos activités. Eric, do you have last words? Eric, do you have any last words?
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica, for to present me and to invite me in this discussion. We hope we will be together next time, in next day. It will be Sunday, I think. We have the program, and we have the program, and we will be together in the next meeting. Thank you very much. And thank you all the country representative for organization, and thank you all for participation. particularly Zena Bukuru AJAP New York, who helping me to understand all in our language French for that this translate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a big thank you. Merci Zina pour la traduction. Je sais que c'est un grand job et votre tête est assurément très fatiguée maintenant. Thank you to Zina translating as, oh, you live in Canada, of course. Le Québécois. Okay, I'm going to end it. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
Je comprends, mais je ne parle pas.
Okay. Bon. All right, so I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is day one of a big future that we are embarking on together. So I'm going to say goodbye. Is there one final comment?
I would like to wish all mothers a happy Mother's Day for tomorrow. God bless them. And I'm sure we all mothers do a great job beside our work. We are all 24/7 on duty.
Thank you.
And congratulations all the mothers.
That's a good way to say goodbye. Thank you, Princess.
Thank
you. So happy Mother's Day and see you all next week. Thank you, Eric. Merci, Larry. Au revoir. Je vais finir.
Merci, au revoir. Thank you.
Ça va être terminé dans 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ok.
Tchuss.
Bye.
Chargé de la police administrative.
Demba, bonsoir.
Oui, bonsoir mon président, vous allez bien?
Comment allez-vous au Mali?
Vraiment, je me porte très bien. Vraiment, j'ai écouté cette conférence vidéo avec intérêt. Oui, je suis très content de ça.
Ça va?
Ouais, mon cher ami, ça va.
Regardez ça.
Et puis, c'est un projet qui me concerne beaucoup.
Oui, ça vous concerne?
Oui, ça me concerne parce que je suis un éducateur. J'ai fait les sciences de l'éducation. Et puis, je suis enseignant de formation aussi qui parle de l'éducation. Forcément aussi, je suis concerné. Et puis, ça va aussi dans le cadre de l'amélioration de l'école. Parce que si on veut une bonne génération...
Ok, merci beaucoup. David Franco, how are you this evening? And Felix Fondo, Mozambique.
Salutations à Madame Président.
Salut tout le monde. Vraiment,
salutations à Madame.
Oui.
Felix David Franco, Mohamed Remili, Claude Abonimana. Merci pour votre participation.
Non, c'est intéressant vraiment. Il faut qu'on continue avec ce projet. Ah, vraiment, on comprend. Et puis tout le monde va recevoir le message. Oui, mon cher ami, vous allez bien?
Mon cher Demba, comment ça va?
Ouais, comment ça va les activités? Vraiment, je vais très bien.
Oui. On se bat toujours. Ça va.
Vraiment, c'est toujours comme ça. En leadership, là, il n'y a pas de fatigue.
Des bonnes choses.
Vraiment, je suis là. Ça fait des jours.
On a dit, faut toujours avoir du courage.
Ah, merci. Et en mois de mai même, je compte organiser une activité sur la citoyenneté et le civisme.
Oui.
Thank you and God bless. Bye.
Pour que les gens puissent connaître les institutions du Mali.
Oui.
Voilà,
donc très bien.
Voilà. En tout cas, je salue tout le monde.
Capitaine. Oui, des bonnes choses.
Oh. Ah, merci. Voilà, on est ensemble. Ah, merci à nous tous.
Ramada, bonsoir. Ramadan. Ramadan, Jérémy. Mudende. Kwanza naenda.
Jeremy hari.
Jérémy, tu parles le Kirundi dans une conférence français anglais.
Je croyais que nous sommes les Burundais.
Depuis que la réunion a commencé, tu as entendu qu'il y avait le Kirundi.
Non, je t'ai après donc la réunion. Je croyais que mais je crois il y a celui de Marie.
Mohamed, hello Mohamed. Mohamed. Hello Mohamed. Jessica, where are you?
Reste Jeremy.
Reste Jeremy et Ramadan. Ramadan.
Mais aussi Floribert, Demba Diabaté. C'est beaucoup.
Ok, il faut que vous achetiez. Comme vous avez comme vous avez acheté une maman comme la présente, comme vous voulez la vous pas. Oui, Ramadan, ok. Ça faisait longtemps.
Jean-Claude, ça va?
C'est Roger.
Oui, ça va. Et les activités?
Les activités continuent.
Ah, c'est bien. Je pense que dans les jours à venir, là, je dois me rendre bientôt au Burundi.
Oui, il faut venir.
Ah oui, pour prendre une activité.
La toi, Zran.
Monsieur Eric Nsengiama. Salam, salam.
Salam.
Donc, j'attends mon invitation pour Burundi.
Ok, je vais vous inviter, promis.
Ah. Maintenant, quelle est l'activité?
L'activité, visite de courtoisie, chez le président.
Ah, il n'y a pas de problème, ça me ferait un grand plaisir.
Oui.
Ah, ça me ferait un grand plaisir.
Oui.
Non, oui. Et Clarisse Ambimana, elle se porte bien.
Oui, oui.
Ah, ça fait longtemps que je n'ai pas reçu ces nouvelles.
Ah.
Ah oui. Elle et moi, quand même, on a eu la chance de se rencontrer au Mali.
Merci pour la participation. Je pense qu'il y aura vraiment à faire et cette organisation est très bien. Je pense que la JOCAI doit faire connaissance à tout le monde. Et il faut accepter aussi de soutenir notre organisation et nous aussi nous allons le soutenir. C'est très important.
Non, oui. Ben, Eric, vous allez travailler sur les documents. Par exemple, là, comme on vient de faire cette réunion, si on aura un rapport d'activité, donc ça va nous faciliter davantage.
Vous n'avez pas un rapport d'activité?
Non, il s'agit même de la réunion, les décisions prises là, les différents points que nous avons pris. Parce qu'il y a eu des moments et je n'étais pas connecté.
Ah, il n'y a pas de décision. Aujourd'hui, c'était en rapport avec le leadership personnel. Mais la semaine prochaine, je pense que ce sera très important pour... J'avais quelqu'un à quitter la réunion.
Oui, j'ai quitté la réunion à un moment parce que je n'étais pas sous la couverture d'une connexion quand j'ai quitté.
Oui.
Ouais, c'est ce qui a fait que je n'étais pas connecté.
Les décisions, mais la semaine prochaine, ça sera...
Mais ce qu'il dit, peut-être il y a des aspects qui ont été relevés, qui sont un peu très intéressants. Et surtout l'aspect de l'éducation. Ça, c'est pas moindre. C'est un aspect très intéressant qui a été relevé, qui a été discuté longuement. Peut-être... Vous m'entendez? J'étais en train de dire des aspects importants qui ont été lors de la réunion, et surtout ce qui concerne l'éducation. Mais aussi, j'ai entendu ce qui concerne aussi le curriculum, l'éducation dès le bas âge. C'est un programme que nous sommes en train de développer pour qu'on puisse commencer le leadership dès le bas âge. C'est-à-dire développer un esprit de leadership dès le bas âge, au détriment de l'esprit de guerre qui est en train d'être développé au monde entier via les films, des films et des vidéos de guerre, mais aussi la vente des poupées et d'autres figures physiformes. Donc, ce qui montre la culture de guerre qui est en train de s'implanter dès le bas âge. Alors, nous sommes en train de développer un curriculum, c'est-à-dire un enseignement qui va commencer dès le bas âge par les parents, pour que les enfants prennent connaissance dès le début, donc soient inculqués avec la culture de la paix, mais aussi la culture de leadership. Apprendre à l'enfant à organiser les choses, mais aussi apprendre à l'enfant apprendre à aimer les autres, donc à se mettre à la place des autres pour pouvoir considérer l'importance, donc l'importance de la collaboration avec les autres. Vous voyez que c'est très intéressant. On a dit aussi, si on ne développe pas ce comportement de l'éducation dès le bas âge, on peut élever un monde de...
C'est bien. Moi, et Claude, ce que vous avez dit, c'est vrai. Et la transformation d'un enfant, c'est depuis le bas âge. Si on veut réellement transformer une société, c'est depuis sa jeunesse. C'est à partir de sa jeunesse, quoi.
Oui, pour retenir qu'il faut quand même agir dès le bas âge pour que les enfants soient inculqués.
Oui. Maintenant, pour prendre un exemple de ce que vous avez dit, il faut voir à notre enfance, là, on nous achetait des petits pistolets, des armes, des chars de combat. Et quand on a grandi, cela a augmenté des criminels. Donc les jouets d'enfants aussi ont des influences sur le comportement futur même de l'enfant.
Oui, oui.
Donc si on nous inculque aussi les valeurs de la paix depuis les bas âges, donc vous allez voir que l'enfant va s'animer de ça, de sa petite jeunesse, de son petit âge jusqu'à un certain niveau.
Moi, je me souviens chez nous, si vous tuez le lézard, votre mère va perdre le sein.
Oui, c'est vrai.
On disait aux enfants, on va perdre ces petits animaux là comme le lézard.
Non, oui.
Oui,
non, oui.
oui, c'est très intéressant. Donc, il faut qu'on retourne toutes les temps.
Non, oui. En tout cas, dès maintenant,
oui.
Je vais faire ça de mon combat de tous les jours.
Oui, oui.
Donc, je vais commencer à animer ma page Facebook pour amener même les parents à bien éduquer leurs enfants sur la culture de la paix. Et pour ne pas acheter aussi les jouets qui ressemblent à des arbres.
Voilà.
Donc, je vais commencer à sensibiliser les gens dans ma langue nationale. Je vais prendre un programme dans la semaine. Chaque semaine, je vais sortir, je vais faire une publication sur la sensibilisation même des parents, dans le cadre de l'éducation même des enfants, vers la culture de la paix. Oui. Oui.
Tu parles beaucoup, mais toute l'année, tu n'as pas même fourni une page de rapport.
Oui, je vais amener ça.
Car on a déjà conçu le rapport et on a publié le rapport de 2008. Regardez sur le site officiel de AJAP. Au Mali, il n'y a pas même une page de ce que vous avez fait. Il n'y a pas même une activité de réalisation de la
oui. Sinon, et pourtant, en 2020,
vous êtes en train de réaliser ceci. On vous écoute à réaliser qu'est-ce que tu fais là.
Sinon, à vrai dire, là, on a pu faire des activités comme chaque mois d'octobre. Le 28 octobre, on fait des dons au niveau des orphelinats. Donc, cette année, on a fait ça aussi.
Ils sont marqués dans quel rapport? Parce que nous, quand nous sommes en train de confectionner un rapport, on se base sur les rapports des pays. Au Mali, il n'y a rien des activités qui sont déjà réalisées en 2020.
Sinon, pourtant, on a fait des activités. On a même été dans une région, à Kita, pour organiser une formation de 100 jeunes sur la recherche d'emploi. En mois de février 2020, on a été là-bas à Kita. On a formé beaucoup de jeunes sur ça. Mais comme vous avez si bien dit, quand même, on n'a pas fourni de rapport. Sinon, quand même, on a fait des activités.
Et les autres théâtres, on continue l'activité jusqu'à midi.
Ah?